let's do it, and we'll use it to, we all of us can talk and chat, and if you guys have questions, it's just bring them on.
Yeah, this is kind of a perfect way for it to come around, because we've got you guys here. So yeah, for context, the last couple weeks or something, kind of really been getting on our bike about mapping things down and figuring out, and being able to present the scope, the vision of what this Voyager ecosystem and collective actually looks like, which I'm already, to have as a tool for sharing with the community, but also when, chatting to other people out in the space or the industry, inviting people, inviting friends to come and join the project and stuff, that we can explain it a lot more ably, instead of sounding like lunatics who are doing so many things all at once. It helps to kind of put it down on paper and be like, well, look, this is, so we've been working away on that, among other things, and don't read too much into this actual slide presentation, because I just grabbed a template because I just wanted to show something quickly, But, okay, so we're going to take a dive through the sort of the Voyager map work in progress. So let's do that. Hopefully the screen's going to change. There we go.
Yes.
What up? Okay, so basically got into creating a bit of a flow chart of logic and sequence in the Miro board, of how, so starting with an individual potential member of Voyager interested to join, and how does this thing sort of flow in? And so we start with apply for Voyager. Then when you're actually approved, you get, right now you get a Pope token. In the future, maybe it's an NFT that's for a season pass or something, or however we do it. Maybe it's 100 tokens, like a Friends with Benefits, where you have a certain amount of the community token in your wallet gives you access, whatever it might be. But essentially, that's your kind of on-chain proof of membership that you have. And then you go into the onboarding process, which will be ideally, in part, the new website that we're building, and supportive content and whatever that can help to bring you up to speed quickly on key concepts and stuff like that. The website will do a lot of the work and explaining everything. But then also in the onboarding, perhaps you're invited to a regular community meetup for new members or whatever it is. So the community and the collective can help to design and implement and, continually improve whatever this onboarding experience is all about. Bearing in mind that we'll have artists and creative people who are joining who've never done anything in Web3. We'll have Web3 people joining who don't know anything about creative practice or art or whatever necessarily. So we're kind of, there's a bit of an attunement that can happen on the way in, that ultimately means when people arrive at the Voyager DAO, they have a sense of what's going on here and how this is a place for them, how they fit in to this overall picture. That's kind of what we're going for.
That's good.
Great.
Any thoughts on this flow so far? Any tag-ons that we can add, or we can just keep it moving? It's fine.
I'm just curious. Have you been reaching out to? Because I know we've been reaching out to creatives, but to Web3 people as well.
Web3 people just starting to now. So like, I'm intending to be out in Europe in June. That's like, our life is crazy right now out here, because we're trying to get all our shit together, jump through the various like hoops of traveling from Australia and into Europe or whatever, to try and go to a string of like Ethereum hackathons and meetups, conferences and stuff for a couple of months, along with like heavy doses of vacation and stuff. So pretty much trying to get something like this map out the project and get a few things together that we can kind of share the project with the Ethereum community as well.
Community, yeah. Okay, cool.
But to be honest, like also Nick's doing this podcast that he's connecting to Web3 kind of people, and in general, you live on Twitter in amongst people you're reaching out to all the time. So
yeah. So I kind of I suppose like my network is like includes a lot of key people across the industry, and absolutely, we're using UFO Podcast, which will be a weekly show that I'm trying to record the whole first season this month. Do like a few episodes a week, recording them all, and that's kind of a non-subtle project to just have conversations and meet up with lots of people from relevant related projects and similar interests and stuff. So while we're simultaneously producing content that will be super interesting and useful for Voyager members themselves, I suppose, like in all the concepts that we're exploring, we're also making friends and potential, kind of putting Voyager on the map across some sort of relevant folks. So that's already happening.
And the idea that like to have Web3 people is like they're the one that will help us build all the tools and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly why I asked.
It's like because we need artists, but also we need Web3 builders.
Yeah. Well, in my experience in interactive documentary stuff, the creative ideas and the creative people voices were never difficult to come by, but the programmers were always a big hassle to get on board, for me at least. So that's why I asked, like, those, like, and also they're also like their rates are always like super high, so they're the most difficult to onboard in projects in my experience. But I am not particularly in that space. So if you are and you're going to these Ethereum conventions and Ethereum hackathons, that seems like an excellent starting point.
Yeah, for real. I guess like another little strategy. I was just going to note real quick, another little strategy is also becoming friends with projects of like DAO tools and Web3 tools that we're intending to build with, and then we can kind of collaborate with them. So some of them will lend you developer support or a little building support to kind of help you get a thing going. And as we're trying to tag all these Lego blocks together to build our own platform, we're going to try to do that. But ideally, we can have some developer capacity within our community, so then our developers can talk to their developers and make it happen. Yeah, but it's a challenge for sure.
All right.
Hopefully, Voyager overall is spicy enough as a project that people are like, I want to see that happen. I'd like to be a part of that. So
yeah, exactly, and it starts with putting it on the map. No.
Yeah. That's it, and hopefully getting in the room at some hackathons.
Cool.
So rolling on from, we've gone through the quick onboarding and we've joined the Voyager DAO. We are now one of these little circles orbiting the DAO. It's time to select your player and explore like the various modes of being of members in Voyager. So and all of this is total work in progress, totally open to input and to further explore it, but just sort of sketching out a basic idea. So the idea being that there's, as we can think of it, 3 main modes of being a member. So the first is like participant. So you're actively participating in Voyager type stuff. You show up to workshops and events. You're jamming on your own individual creative practice potentially and sharing your stuff into the Discord and blah, blah, blah. Like you're a Voyager member 1.0 kind of thing. Like you're just doing your thing. The next step up from that is to join as a contributor. And that can be defined in various ways, but it could be something like we're doing a month-long collective project workshop thing where we're all going to jam on a thing together and make some art. Or you might contribute content to our zine and media outlets, or you might join to, code and hack on something or whatever it is. So you can step up from participant in the space to actively contributing. And then the step up beyond that is to join one of our guilds, which is we have a few guilds that are focused on particular project areas, much in the style of Cabin DAO system of guilds and other DAOs that use this model. So joining a guild is sort of thinking into the future of like potentially where post some kind of fundraising event and Voyager's at a position where it can pay, some form of like season by season remuneration for people who contribute to one of these guilds. So that's the kind of, I suppose your guilds are almost kind of like your core team sort of thing.
I'm guessing they'd also have to be like a limit to their size to keep them. Just like 5 people kind of scale things, right?
Yeah, it's like you can imagine this as, and again, all this open to interpretation and working on it further as a collective, as a community, and what makes sense and everything. But you can conceive of it like maybe there's like about 5 guilds. One's responsible for producing the zine. One's responsible for the catalog. One's responsible for the tech side, and that, like we have this mapped out in another document. Now realizing it would have been relevant to have it here. But maybe there's like 2 or 3 positions in each guild or something like that. Maybe it's 2. You have this sort of leadership coordination type roles. So then maybe you have a couple of people that are leading that guild for a given season, which is maybe 4 months. But then you have people who are contributors who can contribute to a guild and be part of that working group and so on. And so you kind of have a bit of a structure where it's possible to be a contributor for a while. And then you're like, actually, I'd like to be in charge of the something guild. And you can just make a proposal to the DAO, essentially apply for that role for the next season. So that's how it kind of has a liquidity to it and flowing, and that way it's cool. Something like that. But
not fixed in hierarchy.
Exactly. Yeah, like everything is subject to kind of renewal and everything like that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Cool.
So what
the meta label?
Yeah. So you've got participants, contributors, and people in these guilds. All of their activity and whatever they're working on ultimately all contributes to the meta label that we're all building together, which is a concept or a term that's being coined by the project that's called metalabel, by Yancey, who founded Kickstarter, and Austin Roby from Ampled and other fine Web3 projects. And metalabel is like their new baby, basically. And we're buddies with them and chatting with them. But basically, metalabel we've found is quite a good framing for what something like Voyager is doing, which is basically we are a collective that put out releases together and kind of have a shared banner for what we're doing. And, and there's many interesting parallels with other what you might call meta labels from the past, like indie music labels from the 80s and 90s, or, various like music venues that had very key aesthetic and value and all that kind of stuff. So that's the idea. It's like whatever the meta label is, it's something that we're all creating together.
Cool.
So flowing down from we're now participants, contributors, and guilds who are building a meta label together. At the top of it, like the meta label is essentially the meme, the why we do things, like the essential resonant energy of Voyager and what we choose to represent and propagate into the world. It's kind of the meta label is whatever Voyager is about. We're here to make more Voyager-ness in the universe. That's what we're gathering to do.
Yeah, but it's sort of like a worldview, right?
Yeah, that's right. And this is something that we can create. And I guess this is exactly where, with Leangelo and Panos coming in and joining the conversation and helping us to further define what this story is, what this meta label might be, and being able to bounce that back with our community that's here right now, our kind of founding community, and define a story that we're into, at least for right now. It will continue to evolve over time, obviously, right? But if we have a strong founding meme of why we're gathering and this organism ecosystem that we're building, I feel like that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So what I've kind of pinned down in brief right now, and maybe this isn't it, but Voyager is a meta label collective for art, music, culture. I mean, we dream together. We publish releases to our catalog in zine. So as we build this meta label, which is at once a community, it's a platform, it's all these things stacked on top of each other. We express our creations and projects and things like that through a publishing platform that is run by the meta label. So we have a catalog for NFTs, like curated NFT artworks and music and things like that. We also have the open side of the catalog, which means anyone, going back here, anyone who's a participant to the meta label can jump straight in here and mint onto the open catalog. Whereas the curated side is more like that's how you kind of become a contributor, is like you've gone through a process of applying and being accepted through the curation process to be like, yes, you can mint on our curated catalog kind of side. So we have curated and open. We also have the zine, which is all things media and content. I'm working on this new podcast called UFO Club, which is essentially a media project or property that's part of the zine. And that's just sort of like the first show off the ranks, but there will be many more in future potentially. And then also there's this interface. So the interface is like in designing a new website and stuff, and we have Guild as the kind of tool that takes care of our like ID, if you like all the members' IDs. So that way you can jump onto the Voyager website. If I'm just an active member and a participant, then the Voyager website appears a certain way. If I'm a contributor, then I have a contributor NFT that makes it appear slightly differently. And now I can jump in and mint on the curated contract or whatever that might be. If I'm a member of a guild, it also appears differently. So the idea being that we can stack all these tools together to create an interface that's really helpful if I'm a member of Voyager and keen to come and, put my creative projects out. Then we've got this interface that we're all designing together.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll just jump along.
That's good, man. Thanks.
Meta label onto the publishing layer, which then jumps down onto the like experiential sort of layer. So yes, we have a catalog and a zine and a cool sort of interface thing. But then the experiences are how we gather together, focus on the practice, share knowledge, inspire each other, things like that. So in this layer, you can have things like seasons, which maybe that's in a song camp style of like, we're gonna work together for 8 weeks with this many people in order to produce a bunch of art or music or whatever it might be. We get to define what the seasons are. There's different contexts of like, some camp do 2 seasons a year. But we also like the idea of thinking of like, what if Voyager is like an art and culture festival that has seasons that last for 4 months, and each of them or 3 months or whatever. And you do maybe 3 a year and they have different themes, and ultimately people can just come, like members can come and just jam on that theme and put stuff out and be part of it. You know what I mean? So different options for what we can do with seasons, but something to explore because they're kind of like a really good coordination piece for DAOs in general. It just creates that vessel of like starts here, ends here, everything that happens inside. The container is a part of that experience. Seasons are also great for kind of organizational renewal and process. So that way you can have people being like, I would like to lead the zine guild for season 2. It's like, great. And, you can be rewarded X amount of tokens or crypto or whatever it is. And that, that role lasts for 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, right? And so that way it's people are continually kind of making proposals to the DAO for funding for X amount of time for this season, whatever it is. Also in the experience piece, so we have seasons, we have exhibitions. So we're minting to our catalog and stuff like that, but there's obviously opportunity for us to do exhibitions in physical real world space if we want to. We can also exhibit in spatial environments, VR, virtual stuff. We can also collaborate with other events and things that are happening to exhibit works. Maybe Voyager is a festival, even if it's a digital asynchronistic festival or something. And then
what do you mean asynchronistic?
Well, not bound by any time zone. So it's like Voyager Festival runs for a month. From this day to this day, we have, whatever we have. There's music, there's art, there's culture, there's ideas, there's workshops. Like who knows? There's potential for that. And then also the worlds piece is sort of the VR and spatial aspect of like, there is for one thing, we're interested to build like a Voyager HQ in VR, which maybe it's just like, maybe it's the UFO club, or just a place that we can hang out and do stuff. But I don't know, it'd be cool to invite Luke to jump in on the worlds aspect.
Yeah, there'd be a vortex if we went there right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, we need a meeting place, not an HQ. We need a place to meet, and obviously we've got to be platform agnostic. So it's the real world, it's Discord, it's email, it's this voice chat now, and then a spatial place would be really good. If we could do architecture, build up things that we want to see in the real world, we can kind of imagine there for free, and then we can start bringing it into the real world. And Vano, with all the Amsterdam stuff as well, you can see that it's easy to deploy probably into real world stuff there. Until we know other cities where people are kind of have a network, you'd be doing the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like always, like when it's in real life, we experience this like more bandwidth, right? So that's something that, but there's limitation because we are like everywhere in the world. So if it happens that we can do something in real life, I think that's ideal. But also we don't have to be limited to to our geographic location. So if we want to work and collaborate and create with somebody in the other side of the world, eventually we can jump on the VR space and co-create there, or just like meet up there or whatever. It's just like there will be many options for that.
Alternative space. Yeah.
And definitely so we have Voyager, the capabilities to do that. Like both me and Luke and also Nick, we are experienced with virtual world, so it would be silly not to take advantage of it.
And we are in the time when people also might want to build stuff, so it might like share out as well. Like I love the idea of interlinked different meeting places. So however we can integrate into other things is going to be interesting too.
So just to flash on, metalabel, which has our own publishing layer, then we have the sort of experiential layer, which comes together to form this like platform of all these things like together, basically, right? So building a collective Web3 platform on top of unstoppable hyperstructures, which is your kind of Zora and Ethereum and these open and transparent protocols that we can build on top of. So we're stacking up the Web3 Lego blocks to design a Voyager interface, publishing platform, and DAO tools. So these are a collection of a bunch of tools that we're looking to kind of build with or considering to build with, using DAO House as that kind of Moloch DAO, layer Zora for building our catalog on, where we publish NFTs and all that kind of stuff. Manifold for your custom contracts for minting NFTs. So that's how we imagine you can have your curated Voyager catalog contract. And so with artists coming through and minting to that contract, it has that provenance. It links back to this is part of a Voyager thing. So that really gets to the kind of the meta label and the collective that put out releases together. It's linked on chain by the contract. So not only does it have provenance for an artist, where it's like you can see on chain all this artist's work that's minted from a given wallet address or whatever. It's also that it's being dropped on the Voyager thing. And so that makes sense for a curated catalog, but even the open catalog, which we imagine would be another manifold contract that's set up with different permissions, so any Voyager member can go and mint on there. It still has that shared provenance of these are all works that were produced and minted by Voyager members, part of people who were from that DAO. Mira is our publishing platform that we're using. So while we have the zine, which is going to be kind of, really, really funky, interesting on the design side and, a lot going on there. And the zine is a little mysterious in concept. It's kind of, it doesn't need to be completely literal or really, really easy to comprehend what's going on here.
More of an artwork.
Yeah. Whereas Mira is, as many other DAOs and Web3 projects do, we can use Mira to put out project updates and real nuts and bolts. This is how we're building our project. These are the tools that we're using. Here's how we're using them. So this is along the idea of, as we develop and build Voyager, we're kind of open sourcing everything as we go. So if someone wants to come along and build their own Voyager, they can. We're going to show you exactly how we're doing it, right? So then if anything there is relevant for others. And so that's our contribution back to the ecosystem, or being resonant with those values. And in exchange, we have access to the community that has the same ethos and will help us build in an open way. Mira is also Mira is like a decentralized Web3 Kickstarter as well. It has a whole kind of fundraising mechanism built in there, something that we're exploring to do a fundraising event for Voyager to create, a fund to go and execute on a bunch of these projects. Then Mira will probably be the place for that. Guild is your kind of piece for taking care of on-chain identity, member access, all that kind of stuff. Backdrop is a coordination piece for, you can be a member of 5 different DAOs, and when you connect through your Backdrop account, it shows all those DAOs, active votes and things that are happening there, events that are happening in those communities. You can see all the other people that are members of those communities and make friends with them and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of Backdrop is useful. Autospace is an onboarding portal type thing. So we could use Autospace in that flow as members join Voyager, and it basically guides them through hey, read this, watch this 10-minute video, now sort of answer these questions. Or it's a bit of a learning module type piece that can kind of help them quickly get up to speed on what Voyager is all about. And then once you've done that, it basically, it's like it phases you in. So it's like, right, you've learned that thing. Now click here to schedule to meet the community at the next onboarding call. And once you've ticked off those things, it's great, now you're in Voyager. So it's that way when people arrive in the Discord, they've already gone through a little personal onboarding journey that helped to bring them up to speed. So they're not just dropping in like, hey, I saw this on Twitter, I don't know what this is. Because then we're left with a kind of a community social debt of a given percentage of our community don't actually know what's going on and they're not engaged. So we kind of have, let's try to bring as many people up to speed and be active as possible. Clarity is a shared project management working platform, wiki piece where potentially we can have our wiki there. Notice Safe is your shared multi-sig wallet that, you can have the DAO's funds are in there and they can only be moved with multiple signatures. So that can be people from, say, like a meta guild that's helping to manage the DAO aspects. To move any funds around, you need multiple people. So it's that sort of level of protection. Snapshot is for voting on proposals in a DAO. JPEG is for exhibiting NFTs and stuff. They have a really cool piece of that. And obviously Discord. So yeah, there we go.
Thanks, dude. That was a lot.
There's more circles to be added, I'm pretty sure, but we're trying to find the shortest path to the ocean.
Cool.
That's coming together. So the idea being that you'll have to imagine that this is all part of the same map. So we go from platform is pointing down to token. So maybe we have this platform that is a meta label with publishing outlets and experiential aspects, which constitutes this sort of unified platform for the meta label. And maybe that platform is governed by a token. So this is how Voyager DAO can govern itself, and how we also achieve collective ownership and coordination for the community. So let's say we have 300 members and everybody needs to own X amount of tokens. They can own more than that, whatever. But your share of tokens represent your percentage ownership in this entire ecosystem project meta label thing, right? And so through that, we get membership, voting on proposals, collective ownership, and you have a treasury and stuff. So a token enables you to do a fundraising event through perhaps Mira or something like that that kind of gets you your seed funds to kind of get going on some stuff. And then, your token is your way to reward contributions to the project and stuff like that. Yeah, this is kind of
governance
stuff. So you'll notice that we're building community first rather than token first. A common practice is kind of coming out, doing your token thing, doing like your ICO or whatever, and all that. Whereas we're more looking at this as we're still in the if we have a token phase. It's very much the intention, but it's something that shouldn't be rushed, and we intend to have the right people in the room and contributing to this piece. We have people in mind and projects in mind that we can ideally collaborate with to help do something like this, but it will not be rushed. We're going to make sure that it's handled in the right way, because there's a lot to consider basically in how to make sure it's rolled out and doesn't go to zero or whatever, or the security is taken care of, or potentially the legal side or regulation side is all appropriately handled. The DAO structure is set up and established in a friendly jurisdiction, potentially as a foundation, or who knows, right? So we need to kind of
it's a lot.
Answer all those phases, yeah. So zooming way out, this is kind of the flow that we've created.
Is that an NFT? Cool, man.
So now we see a blurry, zoomed out version. So any thoughts about this work in progress concept? And because we're all content people, story people, design people, and stuff like that. So you can obviously see at various of these circles along the way that there's little projects dotted across this that we'll want to sequence and prioritize, put into a timeline that makes sense. But this is kind of like big picture. We feel like this is the project that's going to come resulting out.
It's cool, man. That's good. I think, yeah, you pulled it all together, and it's good. Me and Ivana were like nicing it up in a visual way, and I think it's spot on.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, of course, it kind of makes sense because we've been hanging out for so long. But I wonder if for Panos, for you and Leangelo, it makes sense. I think it's very clear. But what's your feedback on this?
What's up, guys? Glad to be here. I jumped in the call like halfway through what you were talking about, but
what's up?
My impression is like
this
is the most like clear and concise and organized kind of structure and stuff that I've heard from you, and it seems like you really got a good grasp on all the different tools and how they can come together. We use Snapshot for voting, Clarity to do proposals, whatever, and then all the other different aspects that you have tracked. It all sounds like it can work, and that's inspiring. And what up, Themes?
Hey, Themes. We miss you.
Yeah, I was in a call and I was like looking at the time and I'm like, when can I get out of this call so I can get to this one? No, I think that like I love the plan, folks. Like I think that you're really intentional about that, and I'm just like really super excited.
Thanks. That's awesome. That's exciting to hear.
Yeah, it's good. And Panos and Leangelo. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I sorry, Themes, were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask, like, so the week before you kind of presented this idea of this, like, collecting different artists and doing like remix and things like that. So like, I understand. So here I see your ecosystem and your planning within it. It's just that like, so where is the start here? I guess would be my question.
What is the start here?
Is that too vague? Yeah. So
where are we at in the process?
No, so it's like where is your, I guess, start here for contributor or community engagement? Like what do you envision starting with? And it's like, because if you start with too many projects, right, it gets people confused. And what I really liked about the weekly calls is that like we're all together, you know what I mean? And there's not that many people in general. So I was just curious if you had kind of envisioned, I don't know, an icebreaker period, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think this is a bit like the map of what Voyager is going to be. But like in the past weeks, especially also when Luke was here, we started to plan all sort of activities, but we come to the point that we will call out the community. We are in the moment that we need the community to start to contribute in different ways. Like starting 2 weeks ago, we were talking about this remix that is going to happen. We still have to define the dates. There is like to create some friction in between artists. We are preparing, like Luke this week started to set up the zine. So basically we're going to give you like an alpha. We're going to ask artworks and from the artists in the community that will inform the identity of Voyager. So at this moment we set up all the basic stuff, and the plans and which are going to be the tools. but then now we need to fill it in. So we will soon ask all the community to who wants to join, who wants to donate the artwork, or wants to be showcased. Because if you for now, I think like we are using very low percentage of our social media, but like in the near future we're going to feature the artists of our community, because I think this is the actual value of these communities, like their members.
Being part of a metalabel, the collective. Yeah. And answering a piece of Themes, your question as well, and because you weren't here a little bit earlier, can you guys like at all make out these tiny circles that are now on the screen so we can kind of see this giant ecosystem?
No, it's a bit unclear.
It's insane.
Now it's tiny. Yeah.
So just flashing back real quick. So absolutely had this in mind as far as like an icebreaker and being able to bring people in and whatever. So we as a community can help create this onboarding experience together as people come in, as they join the DAO. There's the onboarding that comes before you join, and so you have a sense of what's going on. But then once you're part of joining, your first stage that we imagine as far as like being a member is that you start participating in something, which might be a remix workshop that the guys shared a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that. So we start to have these events and these projects that we can do collectively or whatever it looks like, so that people can get started, and it's really clear and transparent and easy to follow. Like, hey, there's this thing coming up and I can join and participate in this way. I can apply to join, or whatever the case might be for a given event. But then as well, with the kind of the icebreaker idea, it's like, well, we have these agora calls and stuff like that, but ideally we'll have a couple of different ones happening, like a music hangout or a regular art hangout or a nerdy crypto Web3 hangout, or I'm not sure, but we can start to have different things happening, and ultimately these things that people can participate in potentially fit under this experiential level. Like it's an event, it's a happening, a thing that you can get involved with. But I agree, we need these things. Icebreaker is key.
Yeah, and just thinking out loud, would it also be an idea to have like one great season 0 project that we could already kind of work on and put out, so that people who are being onboarded have some kind of reference or idea? Because you said like the meme, the idea, the why of Voyager. Mm-hmm. I think that that's pretty important, and if that can be represented in some kind of project or some kind of work, you'll swat 2 flies in one go, because you'll be working on the identity itself, the why of Voyager itself, while also working on an artwork or a project or something pretty specific.
It's the website and the zine. The website is sort of the streamlining them in, and then the zine is this it's this in between space. It's a feeling. So and that's
showcase.
It showcases and it populates out into all the other like media aspects, but also it's like, hey, look at this. Like you can actually something tangible, right? And experiential.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like something also to just focus some of the energy on in this first phase, and which will help materialize other parts of the whole process.
I agree with that. Like I feel like we make the zine and we basically solve a whole bunch of things that you don't have to solve. It's like just make the artwork and then let it populate. Yeah. And this artwork, which is the zine, it's a lot of the conversation is with poetry. Like it's a story, and I imagine like, all the mythological stuff, we can put it in there, like with the elements and stuff. And then, but yeah, we have to do it together is, just have to navigate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be something that, for sure, like us, me, Luke, and Rick, and whoever is going to help us out, we're going to start it, like to give a bit of a initial shape.
Yeah.
It's like a kickstart, and then like we are open to see where it goes. Also the zine, I imagine there would be, also a curatorial part of that. So some members of Voyager, they might also be able to participate and curate stuff, like and add, being an editor of the zine and all that. So what we're trying to do now is just like take the ball, just make it roll, and then see, because people, we imagine members of the community will say, hey, I have this idea, or I would like to help you with this, or maybe I have this skill, can I do this for you, or whatever. And probably things will take shape a bit differently, different of what we have, what we imagine now, but it's not a problem. That's
the idea.
That's the idea, exactly.
Can I say something about the zine? Does the zine falls into like the format of a traditional magazine, or it doesn't have to?
No, at the moment we're talking about of a digital zine, which is I don't know if we can reveal too much, but it's kind of like a very long scroll of content that comes together. And at the moment it's going to be digital, but I mean, I imagine that there will be also some printed stuff we can execute in the moment we have the right people on board, and like the people can dedicate time for it. I imagine personally that there will be also like a physical version that we can even like send it over, like it doesn't have to be just all digital. This is the other thing of Voyager. When we were writing things, I end up writing this thing that like we are in a polyamorous relationship with digital and analog art. It doesn't have to be all digital, like it doesn't matter, like it could say what you were saying.
I didn't mean if it's gonna end up like being printed. I'm just saying that I think what's quite interesting is that like a magazine or a zine usually has a start and an end. It has page 1 and page 100. A cover and the back cover. I think that what's quite interesting. I mean, to be honest with you, like at one point when you were describing, I think it was one of the first videos about what Voyager could be in the end. The word radio came on board, and I think that what's very interesting with radio is that you get into 2 a.m. you hear a different thing. You get in 10 p.m., you hear a different thing. And when I say a different thing, I mean, obviously it needs editors to take the hours. But in our case, what I think that would be extremely interesting is, what if we could gather the content and then shuffle it? And we can do this manually, we can do this with code. All I'm trying to say is that if Voyager had something like, let's say, like a URL, a specific URL, and then we could use it as a pot, and we can let creators throw inside their things, either with coding or like one person at a time, one editor at a time. What if we could go through the pot and start cooking it? I think that It would
Very
create
cool.
this like soup content, like content of soup, that could be very interesting because we can get very creative on what we could extract from there for the social media or for many other purposes. And on the other hand, we could share it and ask people to join anytime, any day, any part of the week. And I mean, it sounds a bit chaotic, but I think that if you go through, like, I'm just going back to the first case with the zine. The zine means that we do volume 1, volume 2, or, like first edition, second edition. With the other one, we can put inside Nick's podcast. We can put inside text. We can put inside video. We can. I'm not
infinite
saying
zine.
Easy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is that it would be better if we could create something that is alive than with an end.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a channel.
Something.
Like a stream.
Yeah, a stream.
Sorry,
I like the idea of the stream. The infinite flow, and and I think there is like a lot of possibilities in there. But I would like to ask also other people, when you listen these things, what you guys imagine? Like the stream, the zine, because we are working on stuff. We have like references. We're building it. But when you listen a zine, what do you guys imagine?
I don't really know what you're talking about.
I kind of imagine. Oh, sorry. I kind of imagine what Panos was describing in the beginning as being a zine with a beginning and the end, very very edited. Even though the format itself, or like a zine can have video, audio, text, photo, images, whatever.
Yeah.
But it has an order. There is an order in things, and it has a beginning and an end. That's what I imagine it to be when you were describing it firsthand. That's why I also really like what you're saying, Panos, that actually what you also said, Ivano, is that you were thinking about something that scrolls. We also know the infinite scroll from our social media streams. You can scroll down infinitely, and it kind of like never stops giving you new content. That is very, very much more what we are used to nowadays than the zine with a beginning and end, which I was imagining indeed. To answer your question.
A couple of thoughts that are popping to mind in terms of things that we can explore could be, and I feel like a couple of you guys maybe touched on it, but it's like you have editions or volumes, or that's what magazines have, like your edition or something, edition 345 or something. But, and then that way, like if you have editions, and it kind of has a beginning and an end, but it also never really ends. But it's more of a time-based, like this is June. This is the infinite scroll for June or something. But then
fair enough.
But then that potentially then you can have a navigation where you can find stuff and whatever. Also on that idea of like people just being able to contribute their stuff, we have been talking about that and the way, because I mean if we're a collective, we're this DAO, then all members ideally should be able to submit their stuff into this thing for consideration. We feel like a curation layer is good to kind of have a bit of a consistent tone or presentation or whatever you want to say. But potentially you can use your sort of NFT memberships or a community role ID thing. So that way you could jump on, say, the Voyager website, and I'm an active member of Voyager, or I'm a contributor, or I actually run the zine or something. Then the platform just appears differently. You have different access, so that way people can just drop content into this place, and then someone who's contributing as an editor can come and pick that up or whatever, and it can kind of flow like that. But you want it to be as open and easy and asynchronistic as possible.
Yeah, and also this is another thing, because like when we imagine like a zine, like now we are, if we compare ourselves to a living system, we are babies, right? And what is going to look the zine right now? Probably it will change in 1, 2, 3, 4 years time. But the really important thing that the zine needs to do right now, so the first version of the zine, is to communicate out there. What we want to do with the zine right now is to put the content of the community into an edit that smell and taste like Voyager, so people from the outside can look at it and say, this is cool, I want to be part of it. That's it. At the moment, we just need to send the signal, and right now, if you're part of Voyager, you witness and you see what we're doing. We talk, we chat, you can read. But if you're from outside, it's very hard. I've been talking to people that say, but show me more. What is it? So we need the zine in this season 0, just so people can go see the artwork and the things that the community is doing, edited by us, by Voyager, and they can get it. Probably they don't get it entirely, but they can get the feel. It's like, okay, that's cool. This is everything that the zine needs to do right now. In a 6 months' time, we can change it, and we might need it for something else. But this is what we need right now. And also in June, we're going to be in Amsterdam. There will be meetups, so we'll be talking to people. We need to show. This is the moment that we are going to open up towards the outside.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, like the urgency of that is very, very clear. But the thing I liked about what Pano said is that it makes it more living and more like the idea of shuffle kind of like randomizes the content. I mean, it can be curated in what comes into the let's say playlist, but the way it plays back is more shuffled, which makes it more alive, like gives you the feeling at least of making it more alive. I had a project that never materialized that we did that we made a proposal for a couple of years ago, which was called Putin Roulette. And that was the idea was that we were speaking to different people in the Netherlands, Russians in the Netherlands, as well as a friend of mine who was traveling throughout Russia and interviewing people there. And the idea of how people think about Putin changed so dramatically depending on who we spoke to, of course. But these different ideas about like a person like Putin, of course, nowadays, what's happening now, like we see one idea, but to understand how people in Russia are thinking about Putin, you want to see also different perspectives. So what we came up with was like a website which would be called Putin Roulette, where all these videos from different speakers who have all different opinions and how they see Putin. Some worship him, some are critical, some don't want to say anything, are just shuffled. Those videos are just shuffled, and depending on what moment you came onto the website, you would see a different video. And that was basically it. So that's also what I imagined, what you were kind of describing, Panos, with this, the idea of randomness, kind of like takes away a little bit of the hierarchy which we're used to. And in this context of Voyager specifically, especially what we've been talking about, I think, it's an attractive and a fitting concept.
It is.
That's good.
That's all.
I think that, I mean, what's quite interesting is that, I mean, the icebreaker that our dear friend mentioned is that I think that Voyager at this stage, I think we can all, how would I say, if one of us, if to one of us, somebody would say, you have 30 days, gather content, edit it, and showcase it, somehow we could pull it through. I mean, I know we would. The engine that I'm trying to describe is, it works a little bit as a teaser. So I think part of our dialogue and discussion is that what are we more interested now? Are we more interested into bringing out a teaser of what Voyager is, or something concrete? I think this is a good initial question to answer. I mean, it can get also chaotic. Don't get me wrong. I mean, by putting 5 different mediums, it's gonna get chaotic. It's just that I think that it would be nice if people would go and say, "Yeah, I checked this URL or this thing. Did you see that?" And the other one's gonna say "No, I haven't." Or the other one's gonna say, "Yeah, show it. When did you see it?" It can build some kind of a buzz, I mean, I don't have it very clear in my mind. I'm just thinking that it could be a nice tool, or at least a part of it.
It honestly feels like it plugs in very, very easily. Maybe I could say, with all the DAO tooling, where it's of a certain level. So you got the open contract, but say one stage up where you can kind of we know these people are going to put good things into this mix, not necessarily just fill it with trash and noise.
Yeah.
And then it would be like a Lego block, and randomize that thing, and then wherever you are coming from, it needs to still get you there. So whether you're coming from the the 3D virtual world, or you're coming through Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, we need to then propagate it all out into those places. And that's kind of automated. And then if we died, the DAO could just continue doing this because it's a living organism. That would be the Lego block.
Going back to the video where I think it was Nick describing the radio. Nick, what was it in your mind when you were saying about the radio? How would you imagine it?
Yeah, so what was interesting about that is it's just a signal, and like any digital station, and that's something that can be populated in the same way that we might be populating the zine through words and visual art and video and stuff like that. So audio stream, the signal could include, I don't know, DJ mixes and music and stuff from our members. It could include podcast episodes, of which I'm creating one or whatever. So potentially it's our own pirate radio station, broadcasting off the coast. But what's nice about that as well, which I think I mentioned in that video way back, is the fact that it's a live signal. So if it's if someone is put together a music mix, or you could have an artist that's performing or whatever it is, it's hey, tune in at 7 Pacific. This is going to be on the Voyager stream, right? And people can tune in and experience it at the same time, which everything on the internet is experienced now at different times. So there's something nice about that, of just having a signal that's going out that we can all experience together at the same time if we want to.
Yeah.
Also, I don't want to zoom in. I don't want to zoom in a lot. But what's quite, maybe it's not the right word, but what's quite fashionable nowadays is how do we extract pieces from books? I had this idea. I'm not the only one who had it, I guess, but it would be quite nice, even if we could ask from our members to throw a silly video of them reading a page of from their favorite book. You know what I mean? It's I think it would be quite interesting to break, to destroy the format of text, and just make a triangle between a book, somebody reading it, and the actual words. I just think that how would I say, it would make it. In the end, I hope it's not gonna look like this TED Med videos or TEDx videos. I just think that we could use our creativity by by simplifying things than making them, it can be an animated rock that can read the book. It's up to the editor, or it's up to the member how he's gonna throw it out. I'm just thinking that the weight of an editor to come up with a zine, it can be fierce. It's gonna be lots of work. That's why I think we should try to find a way to take a little bit of weight off from their backs.
It's good. It's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel the zine is gonna be okay within 30 days. It's a lot of focus, and actually it's unrealistic in terms of we have to invite artists, we have to get on that stuff now. But
in this stage.
But it's the basic way to do it is that we're doing it with like a cargo site, and it is a lot of that sort of super long scrolling within sound, word, video, and it kind of is. I imagine that the way it gets made is in a state of play, and me and Ivana will have to kind of go through this, and whoever else we can bring on.
Okay.
And then you kind of and the story part, the actual beginning and end. That's probably just going to take on the sort of natural story of, well, actually, no, it has to be discovered in it.
Yeah. I think like I really like a lot of these things we all mentioned, like what Pano was saying, also what Leandro was saying. But what you guys described seems a bit more of a mature or a bit more adulthood product, and right now, this is the other thing. We pull something out right now, and it will change, and we don't know how it's going to be. Like, I just believe that right now, like, we should really go with something that is like more simple, which is not going to be super simple, but a bit more like, let's see what happens if we do this. And then, like, there will be a natural evolution, and with the time, like, most of these elements of the stream, of being synchronicity, or they will come in. At the moment, like I would say, this is the very season 0 of Voyager, but also of our media, our zine. It will be still there.
I know.
Totally. As it starts to develop, as it's been clarifying lately, to realize that various of these ideas are like, well, that can be a season 1 thing. Like, that's fine. Like, when it builds out and gets a little more complex, and how people contribute and all that kind of stuff. What we need right now is, even if we just went to a half dozen artists who are in our community, curated a kind of, a selection to contribute, because that way we're putting out this essence of Voyager out into the world through this zine that anyone can come and check into. But also internally for our own community, we're like, this is it could be a little bit like this, and we could have more people contributing, and it's a way for us to put the spotlight on people's work and all that kind of stuff, which is a healthy energy for the community, I think. But I like all these ideas, and these things can evolve in time. And the idea with the zine is kind of like a meta label within the Voyager meta label, in a way. It's like under what falls under the zine. You can think of it like any media property, I suppose, out there, but it's like, like Vice, I suppose, is a good example of, like, they have endless video series that fall under the Vice, masthead or whatever. Yeah. So if someone's like, I want to come and do a series on such and such, it's like, great, you can go. We could have a process to do that kind of stuff in the future as it starts to build out. There might be a whole network of different podcast shows, for instance, or whatever. And, I suppose there's a navigation that we would want to create to make sense. But yeah, for right now, some of that stuff we don't need to worry about right now. We just want to have this 1.0 zine and a new website that helps to explain what Voyager is.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add something else. Is like whatever shape it will take, we have to remember two things. So one is I already said is the signal for outside, and then another thing that probably is more important is giving attention to our members. I think back in one of our agora we asked, and I think Fims was saying something like, I want to know that people valued me, I don't know if Femi, if you use these words, but that was like very important for us to listen, this is not our idea, it's basically your idea. And it felt like it felt right. It felt like, this is very important. We need to give attention to our community. So putting something like a zine, whatever shape is going to be, we are doing two things. We are communicating outwards towards the people that don't know Voyager, but also we are shining a light on our members. And eventually people get to know each other a bit better. And that's the actual friction and the actual value of what is going to happen.
I have an example in practice. Thank you. I have an example in practice and maybe some learnings. So Boys Club, for example, I don't know if you've heard of Boys Club, but they do a weekly newsletter, which I love. It's super funny. There's great memes. You get to hear about the community and what they've been up to. And I know it's very Web 2, and then I'm in Colors, right? And so Colors has their weekly Wednesday, but then what I've been finding the problem is that they want people to do the bulletin, but they don't coordinate it enough for people to be able to participate in that, right? It's kind of last minute. So I guess my advice, and I'd love to have the conversation about the zine, is that you could use Mirror and just release a weekly Mirror post, and then the collections of that could make your season 0 magazine. And so what that does is that it allows consistency within the content, but it provides an opportunity for people to participate when they have the ability to do so. So it's scheduled out so that you don't have to rush to find the right people and the editors, and that's where people feel valued. It's a sign-up sheet early on. And then they can claim ownership that way. So, and just in terms of logistics, that's what I've seen has helped.
That's good. I think the Mirror is more kind of what you're saying for us, but the actual zine thing is literally, it's more of an abstract artwork with poetry going through it, and sort of a change of feeling, a story of feeling in a way. Whereas Mirror is more like a magazine, right? That's a better way to put it.
I would say Mirror is more like potentially how Cabindao and other projects use their Mirror. They're project updates. It's very DAO flavored, metalabel flavored. And it's the way, that's the space for us to sort of build in the open and share exactly what we're doing, what our progress is, and all that kind of stuff. I guess it's also a bit of a coordination layer as well, such as, Cabin do a great job where they, at the beginning of each season, they have their guilds publish their proposals through their Mirror, and then people can vote on it through there. I think Mirror is best used in that context, but at the same time, I have this UFO podcast coming through, and I'm intending to use a Mirror site for that as well. And for that, I guess we'll kind of be experimenting in a different way of using Mirror. But if that makes sense, I would love people's feedback on we've put out a couple of newsletters and stuff, and if anyone has on the call has seen those, if you have any thoughts, would you prefer us just to be writing straight into an email document type thing? I'm curious on if you have any thoughts about the format, if you've seen it, and other ways that it could be. I'm definitely open to exploring other ways of doing the newsletter.
Cool.
No one's seen the newsletter.
I've not seen the newsletter.
Neither am I. I get your calendar invite, but I don't think I have your newsletter.
Maybe it wasn't delivering correctly, or maybe it's deep in the spam.
But just really quick in regards to Mira, like I love breaking the system. You know what I mean? Just because certain things are done a certain way, like I'm using Mira for this like creative exploration of like word and sound. And I think that's the beauty of Web3.
Yes.
Break the system.
Yes.
Oh, totally agree. We just kind of had the thought that using like Mira is almost like our organization and like I don't want to say tech side of the project, but that's kind of where Mira is, where things are completely literal. It's like us reporting transparently, sharing exactly how we're building and why, what the rationale is, what the community is thinking about working on, and so on. And then we have the zine, which is the opposite. It's not even, it doesn't have to be literal. It's not there to give updates about Voyager necessarily. It's just to be experiential and showing the art and culture and stuff emerging from our community. So I guess our idea was to use Mira as our really kind of transparent reporting outlet or something.
I think if we were able to take the zine and wrap that website into an NFT in a way, then you could probably put a proposal together and like make it as something you could contribute to on Mira to crowdfund in that way. But I don't know if that's what the zine is actually for. Anyway, guys, we've been talking for ages.
Yeah, we should probably call a wrap up. But thanks so much, everybody, for dialing in.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So can I just ask, like, is the Agora actually weekly? Because I haven't been tuning in. This was my first tune into the Agora itself. I've been talking to you guys separately, but is it every week? Because then I can lock it in.
Yeah, it's weekly.
Okay.
Except for last week.
Yeah, that we missed.
The community took over last.
Yeah,
right, cool.
I was unwell last week, and the guys were not available.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, cool. Then I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone. Ciao.
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 See ya.
That's all right.